Hello, this is Sarita, and I'm speaking to you today from Soul Henge. And I'm here to help you understand the truth about who you are. Now, today I just wanted to share with you a really beautiful experience that happened to me a couple of days ago. A truly fifth dimensional experience, and in that potentially give you an idea about how you could experience the same thing. So I'm very lucky here. I've got the most beautiful garden, so my lockdown is very peaceful. And anyway, so I was sitting in the garden, and what I've noticed is that as the lockdown continues, I am slowing down more and more. You may have noticed that I'm a bit sort of supersonic in my normal life. Like, I speak very quickly and I do things really fast. I'm always full of loads of energy. So slowing down for me is can be quite a hard thing. And obviously, as I've been on my road of evolution, particularly in the last 5 or 6 years with my shamanic training, I have become more and more aware how speedy I am, and that when I slow down, it assists me. But what happened at the beginning of the lockdown was that I noticed that as I tried to do nothing, I became anxious. Okay, it was like my conditioning was showing itself that I needed to get on with other things. And, you know, I would stop and slow down, have a cup of tea, listen to nature. And then I would sort of, oh my goodness, I've got to get up and carry on working or do something or sort out the kids or, you know, cook a meal or whatever. And I began to notice that I started to get very anxious when I was slowing down. That anxiety is leaving me more and more as it reveals itself in this lockdown. And I imagine the same things happening to lots of people, because I'm teaching meditation classes. And when the lockdown immediately happened, people didn't have work to go to, didn't have anywhere to go to. In fact, they spent the first few weeks frantically spring cleaning their houses to keep themselves busy. But now they're slowing down more and more, and they're easing into that new idea that we don't have to frenetically do stuff. You know, we really have been conditioned in this sort of 9 to 5 frenetic, catching up with the timeline, survival based programs that if we're not busy, and we're not working, we will literally die. It's like a real conditioned behavior. So anyway, that's kind of a long way of saying that I was actually just sitting in the garden in stillness. And what was happening to me was I was listening to the birds, and the birds and the insects and the bees. And I started to really tune into the vibration and the sounds of them. And then I had this extraordinary realization and revelation. I realized that I was hearing the birds and the bees and the insects, not with my ears, but with my heart center. The sounds were coming from my heart. It was the most extraordinary sensation. So basically, what was happening was the vibration of the sounds were expressing themselves out of my heart center. And it was just extraordinary. And I tried to then just listen to them with my ears only. I really tried to separate my heart center and just listen to the birds, the bees, and the insects with my ears. And I couldn't do it. It was extraordinary. Every time I tried to listen to them, the sounds were coming out of my heart. And it felt amazing, but it really made me think. I was like, have I always been hearing these sounds through my heart center, but I've only just deepened into my practice enough and connected to source consciousness enough and slowed down enough that I'm only becoming aware of it now? Or have I been creating the birds and the bees and the insects with my heart center? And this is what I realized that I actually have been doing, that we all have been doing. Because if you've been listening to my videos, you will know, and if you listen to the science of quantum physics and people who understand what manifesting is, we are creating this holographic universe that we are in through the way we think and feel. We are the creators of our reality. We are not the victims of our reality. We don't walk around, things happen to us. We're creating it. And I think what happened was, and since that moment, it's the same thing keeps happening to me. I cannot hear the birds and the insects and the bees except through my heart center. What I realized in that moment was everything that we are creating is coming out of our heart centers. And it really was a self-actualized moment for me, where all of the intellectual, intellectual musings and ideas and all the work that I've been doing came together into this moment where I actually could see with instant manifestation that I was creating everything out of my heart center. It was just the most extraordinary moment, and it continues to happen to me when I'm outside with the birds and the bees and the insects. But I think what's going to keep happening to me is that I will start to notice a speeding up of manifestation. So what I think and feel will more quickly manifest. And I've been noticing this escalation of manifestation over the last 2 years, but it's really been speeding up. And the reason that it's speeding up is because we are moving into the 5th dimension. And in the 3rd dimension, we've been learning that we are the manifestors of our reality. And there's been a time lag because as students, we needed a time lag because we don't want to manifest everything we think and feel instantaneously, because you don't just manifest the beautiful things, you manifest the bad things. And, bad as in things that don't serve us, perhaps is a better way of putting it. So, and because we've had so much conditioning and so many habitual programs kind of inserted into us as we've been growing up, we needed the time lag so that we just weren't manifesting awful things. Because think about what would happen if everything you thought and felt manifested. You got annoyed with your partner and you was like, oh yeah, I wish he was dead. If you had those kind of thoughts and you were having instant manifestation, you would be creating that. So we needed the time lag to learn what we were here for, which was to learn how to manifest. But as we move into the 5th dimension, we are moving into the law of creation. We're moving out of the law of attraction and into the law of creation. And that's where what you think and feel manifests instantaneously. And this is what happened to me. I was having a 5th dimensional moment where I realized that I was manifesting the birds and the bees and the insects out of my heart center. And everything is coming from your heart center when you're in the 5th dimension, because it's unity consciousness. And when you manifest from your heart center, you're going to manifest beautiful things. And that's why the 5th dimension is heaven on earth to all intents and purposes. It's where we really stand in the truth of who we are, which is that we are love. We are unconditional love. And the 5th dimension is just the tip of the iceberg in the glorious realization of who we really are and the powers that we have. And I really feel as if as we progress through the layers of the 5th dimension, which in linear space and time could take, millions of years, we're going to be manifesting the most extraordinary things. We're going to be able to do, imagine a world where you can dream of a forest and it just appears in front of you, or you can dream steps that go into the clouds and then you get to walk up them. I mean, it's going to be extraordinary. So this was, in a way, my first tangible physical moment of 5th dimensional realization. And the bizarre thing was, I had a conversation with a friend of mine about the next day, and she had had exactly the same experience with birds. So it's like that 100th monkey syndrome thing where if enough people realize, everybody picks it up through the matrix of our connection, that we are all beginning to move into the fifth dimension. And so what I'm going to do is to encourage you to, despite the chaos and the social isolation and the fact that many of us, not me, but I know that many people are stuck in places without gardens, I'm encouraging you to go out into nature in the time that you're allowed each day and sit with the nature and allow it to kind of infiltrate or penetrate your energetic being and see what happens to you. Because what happened to me was I was just really tuning into the sounds, and I could feel them, you know, sort of in my whole biofield and in my body. And that's when I had the realization that the sounds were actually coming out of my heart center. So if you can, spend time in nature. But if you can't spend time in nature, spend time in meditation, imagining that you are in nature. Because the other thing that we know is if you can imagine something, then you can create it. That's what we're also learning as we shift from third dimension into fifth dimensional reality. And one last thing that I would like to say to you all is that in line with the work of Drumvolo Melchizedek, who's I've got one of his meditations on the channel, he's always said that the center of our heart, that in the center of our heart is a sacred center that is the same center as all of the hearts in the whole universe. And that was another massive realization, because as we are creating stuff out of our heart centers, we are co-creating with everyone and everything in the entire universe. And that's why it's so important that our earth ascends into the fifth dimension, because what happens here on earth directly affects everyone and everything in the whole universe. We are all interconnected. We have the same heart because we are all God consciousness. We are source consciousness. We are one thing. And as we move into unity consciousness of the fifth dimension, we're going to feel this more and more. So yeah, I'm encouraging you to go into nature, to take this gift of social isolation and go within and start connecting to the earth of which you are made of which you are a part. And I hope you have a revelation and experience similar to mine. And if you do, goodness me, please leave it in the comments box and let me know what happens to you. And thank you very much for listening. Much love to you all.